It's date night. No, come on, don't be silly. I don't mean postmodernism date night, where two overly scented and mildly damaged individuals sit down over a dinner at a restaurant they've already frequented with the last three lovers they tried to call.
Oh, this is awkward.
This is more a public service announcement. This is dating decorum from the time capsule that is the 1950s. And you've got to think this is an interesting time period, the 1950s, because if you go back 20, 30 years, the whole world was blowing each other apart and families weren't coming back, men weren't coming back, and a lot of lives were destroyed. So this was kind of like the revival, the phoenix from the ashes, the American dream. This is before a massive transformation in kind of social ideologies that happened during the 60s and 70s. So this kind of little window post-war is an interesting time capsule to observe. The National Council on Family, does that even exist anymore? That's probably gone bankrupt, or that's probably had its funding cut, to say the least.
You're fired.
This is a story about what to do on a date. It begins one early summer afternoon. It begins with Jeff and Kay and Nick.
You can just tell by the way that he was unable to catch that ball that potentially Mick's going to have a certain disposition. In classic fashion of a PSA, it has that tone, that voiceover. I don't know if this is going to be a rom-com, if it's going to have a happy ending, or it's going to be about wearing your seatbelt or something like that.
Of course, you may not have a problem about what to do on a date, but Nick, well, he has a real dating problem. If he took Kay out on a date, what would they do? Where would they go?
Just a minute, Jeff. I'll get my tennis racket.
Okay, Nick, but hurry. Hey, what about asking Kay to come to the community center with us on Friday to fix up that scavenger sale? We could make it a double date.
What?
You heard what I said.
That's no place to take a girl on a date. Helping to fix up the scavenger sale.
It's seldom that men in modernity have a wingman like this. Now, a wingman isn't just to kind of take the attention of the ugly chick so that your friend can talk to the one that he finds desirable. This is a true wingman. This is really like a Jiminy Cricket of friends. Hands on his hips and saying, take action. Invite Kay along. Let's do it. Let's see what he's going to say.
Is it?
Why not?
Why not?
On a first date?
First date?
Yeah. Well, Kay's a swell girl. I was thinking of calling her. Maybe ask her to the show Friday. Good picture. Wagon train.
Well, hurry up and call her and let's get going. I still have to get my things yet.
Call her now?
Sure. You know
Making
the
his
number,
friend
don't you?
accountable.
Okay.
Championing role for his pal. He's like kind of like, I want to go and play tennis, like get your shit together. His friend there is there to embolden him. What a great guy. Everyone deserves a friend like this, and not many men have, right? They're quick to do the masculine part of the ridicule and taking the piss out of each other, which is so important for male bonding. But to have a friend that would actually champion you like this lad's doing, it's pretty powerful shit, man. He's pretty lucky.
You never leave your wingman.
So he's taking action. He was nervous. He knew he found her desirable. Didn't know what to do. He suggested to give her a call right now. Take action.
What if she says no?
Hello?
Oh, hello, Kay. This is Nick Baxter.
Oh, hello, Nick. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Say, Kay, next Friday, would you like to see Wagon Train at the movies?
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. I suppose you've got your mind made up to see it?
You've seen it? She's already seen it.
Oh,
Well, ask her
man.
about the scavenger sale. Go ahead.
Kay, you wouldn't want to help get the scavenger sale ready at the community center, would you?
Oh, I've been hearing about that. Yes, I'd like to very much.
Look at the genuine desire there. Look at the genuine like femininity. She was playing with the ring of the phone, like same way, kind of like playing with my hair. She's generally happy. I mean, he got rejected, so he thought that his whole hope was shot down there. But then his mate asked him to pivot and went, "What about the scavenger hunt?" Which I guess in the UK we call boot sales, or like some like second-hand kind of raffle, some sort of thrift show. But why not pivot and ask her to go to this? Now, in the 1950s, this young maiden, she's quite happy. She's quite happy about it. She's quite excited. She's not thinking, "Oh, that's quite lame." He's thinking that. He's more nervous than what she is. She's like, "Wow, I wanted to go and see that."
You would?
He would.
All right. I'll call for you then. About 7? Bye. I sure didn't think she'd go to a place like that for a date. Where's my racket? Oh, ready?
You know, you better think some more, fellow, about what to do on a date.
Do you think she'll have a good time? What do you suppose I'll have to do?
You can hear the argument about men's testosterone dropping just by the fact these lads, I don't know how old they're meant to be playing, whether they're like 16, 17, 18, younger men, or whether they're a little bit older, but the guy's got a voice like he smokes 50 packs of cigarettes a day, or he's got a gravelly man voice at that age, so it really does pay credence, doesn't it, to the kind of the low drop in test that we're seeing in modernity. And he was doing high T actions, right? He's making his friend accountable and he's pushing him forward and saying, "Come on, let's do it, let's do it."
Pick up the fucking phone.
And you know what? They're going out and playing tennis, so they're doing active things. They're not going out and going down the pub. They're doing active things. High tea society. Men are bonding over making each other accountable and playing a bit of sport, getting involved, and that's what it's all about. The community just riding together. They're all just getting involved.
Now, you may not have thought of this sort of thing as a place to take a date, but it looks like it could be fun. A group doing things together. Pretty good idea for a first date. Plenty to do.
Communities really giving a fuck about each other seems like a positive idea for people's self-esteem and well-being.
Plenty of people to talk to. But let's see if Nick and Kay are enjoying it.
No amount of work to make this thing look any older.
Boy, that is an old timer.
Hey, Nick, can you help me put this sign up?
Oh, sure.
I can't quite reach that far.
How's this?
That's about right.
Thanks. Say, Kay, are you really having a good time?
Of course I am. I'm glad you thought of coming here.
So am I.
Can you imagine remaking this in the 21st century? You'd have to have Kay where Mick goes, "I can put that sign on the wall," and she goes, "Well, I'm a woman and I'm able to do everything that you're able to do. Give me that claw hammer and let me climb up and put that on sign up." No, she's quite happy for him to do it. In fact, he's demonstrating value there, isn't he? He's like, "Ah, well, I'm tall enough, Kay. Why don't I do it?" He still maintains that nervous disposition, which is quite endearing, which is quite cute. You can see this disapproving look of old Jiminy Cricket, high tea cricket over here that's not happy with his friend's performance.
I'm not impressed by your performance.
He's asking too many questions about whether she's enjoying it and not enough time about being present.
I mean,
Lame-o.
yes, it was a good idea.
Okay.
He knows it wasn't even his idea.
How about helping with refreshments for the game? All right. See you later.
Oh, yeah, oh, sure. Got any more tacks?
I think they're over there by the door.
Yes, it was a good idea to come here. How does Jeff get ideas like that? Hey, what's this? Maybe this is where Jeff gets ideas. A list of coming activities. A bike trip. That could be a lot of fun. A chance to do things with a group, to get acquainted. It does look like a good time, if your partner likes it.
Imagine getting out a mountain bike or a rally bike and saying, we're going for a cycle, bitch. Bring your Lucasade, let's go. But there's a whole list of activities he can choose from, and now he's just pontificating the endless possibilities of something that brought him so much anxiety and fear of choice. You know, is she going to enjoy it? What are we going to do? Into, wow, everything can be fun when you're sharing it with good company. That's the whole point of a date, and you can just see his brain rattling now like, man, Jeff's got some good ideas, but I never knew where he was getting them from.
Or a weenie roast?
Don't know what that is.
Another group date. A chance to learn the give and take of working and playing together.
I hope they got regulations for that fire. You can't just have open fires in public places these days. I hope they fucking made sure they got the regulations sorted, alright?
That is illegal!
Much expense, and that can be important. Could be a fine date, if Kay would like it. Wonder if she'd like to go to a baseball game. A date that's not too involved, one you can carry through comfortably. And there are all sorts of other sports events. Inexpensive dates, most of them. Swimming meets, for example. You can find many good ideas for dates.
You notice that most of these dates don't really cost any money. Like, they're not spending bags just to take this person out on a date. It's more about the social lubricant that becomes the activity that they're doing. Whereas nowadays it's kind of, I don't know, is there an expectation around maybe you got to spend some bags, go to a nice restaurant, go to a nice place. It has to almost be transactional. Whereas I guess what this PSA is trying to communicate, that it's only limited by your imagination, and there's lots of things that go on. And if the aim of it is just to enjoy your time and be present and not have to struggle through it and be in that awkward situation, then there's loads of things that are going on.
Dates that give you a good chance to get acquainted. And dates that you don't have to worry too much about in advance. It was a good deal coming here tonight, double dating with Jeff and Phyllis. When all four are good friends and enjoy the same things, double dates can be lots of fun. Or you can ask Kay to go on dates with you alone, if you plan for what she enjoys.
Hey, you loafer. What are you doing over there?
You're right there.
Fine thing. As soon as Kay isn't around to supervise, you go off on a vacation.
You know, Maestro, I don't think your date ideas are so original.
What?
About what to do on a date, I mean. But what I'd like to know is, how can you figure out what a girl would like to do? A certain girl, I mean.
Well, you might ask her.
Yeah, Nick's looking for you.
You see this polarity quite a lot with, like, if there's two male characters, two male friends, one normally takes on this very nervous role, this very kind of neurotic role, and the other one is kind of this grounded, kind of the assertive element to them, and they work really well together. Here in the UK, we had Only Fools and Horses, where you kind of had his brother Del Boy, that was kind of the duck and diver, Bob and Weaver. He was the assertive one, and then his brother Rodney, that was kind of the nervous one, and kind of within himself. And you got that same dynamic that's kind of going on here. It's like Jeff knew all along that he's going to crush the date, and it's going to be absolutely fine. He had that kind of high tea, high confidence kind of build to him. And it was only really Mick who's worrying about, you know, wow, I really like this girl, and I just hope she enjoys it. He's kind of too much worried about impressing her, even in the 1950s, let alone what it's like today, right? But he's more worried about that as opposed to what the actual date is about, whereas kind of Jeff's got this confidence as in, yeah, I knew all along, that's just what you needed to do, Mick, stop being a little pussy.
Is he good company? He always seems so quiet. We get along all right. He's got a good sense of humor, and we haven't run out of things to say yet.
He's kind of cute. You gonna date him again?
Friend, as I would do, just shit testing a little bit, saying like, he doesn't really say much, he's a bit quiet, he's a bit nervous, but she's like, no, he's got a sense of humour. And she's asking him, you know, will there be a repeat business? How's it going?
I don't know. Besides, he hasn't asked me. George, get out of there.
I'm hungry.
If you want to do something, take the Cokes out there.
Okay, come on, hurry go.
All set?
I think so. Come and get it, everybody.
Come on, we eat. Let's go.
Eat at your own risk.
Hi, stranger.
I decided to come out of hiding.
Say, this looks good. You make the sandwiches?
Flattery will get you no place.
She made the sandwiches because she wanted to. She wasn't forced to make the sandwiches. It's really important I say that in modernity. She chose to make the sandwiches. She chose to make the sandwiches.
Where should we go? Right.
How about over here?
Oh, Barney.
Your table, madame.
Thank you, sir. This is fun, isn't it?
Yeah. You sure you like to do things like this?
Sure.
I thought all girls wanted fellas to take them to fancy places, spend lots of money.
Not this girl.
And he's found one of the good ones, lads. Give him a clap. Give him a clap. Because he's always insecure. His insecurity is about the fact that maybe the date is transactional and has to be like a minimum spend. And he's a bit worried about that minimum spend. But what he's found here in Kay is like, no, I'm just a good time girl. I love the scavenger store. I love the scavenger hunt. And this is maybe what it's around. Like, imagine him being teleported to the 21st century and him endlessly scrolling through Tinder or one of these other disastrous apps. And him worrying about, well, I only work at the scavenger sale on weekends. I haven't got enough money to go to a designer restaurant. Bless him. They're a good match.
You know, I sort of like things like this too. You won't laugh. I like to go on bicycle trips too. Do you?
And miniature golf. You love that.
Yeah, and weenie roasts and square dances.
And baseball games and taffy pull.
Oh, they're finishing each other's sentences. This is so lovely.
I think they're swell.
Say, you like to do lots of things, don't you? Say, Kay, next Friday there's gonna be a weenie roast, or there'll be a bowling party if you'd rather do that, or we could go to the band concert.
Oh, I'd enjoy going to the weenie roast very much. Unless you'd rather go bowling.
No, I'd rather go to the weenie roast. If Jeff goes with Phyllis, we could double date with them.
Hey, Nick, hey, come on, we're gonna break open the ice cream.
Okay, be right there. Is it all right then, about Friday?
Yes, Nick. It's a date.
Oh, bless him. He's converted the
Yes,
sale.
there are lots of things to do on dates. If you know how to look for them, if you plan them with the other person in mind, and if you really try to make sure each date's a good time. If you do these things, you'll know what to do on your date.
It's quite incredible, really, watching that back, because even though a lot of things have changed since then, the culture, the society, the societal kind of push, the same common themes will always be there, right? There's always that apprehension or nervousness, the butterflies in the stomach, that fight or flight that comes around any new experience. And back then there was something quite sweet about this video, the fact that guy, even though this is meant to be like a high tea society, if you listen to the idea that, you know, of feminism, it seems that women really were kind of oppressed really heavily the further we go back the timeline. But it doesn't really convey that, does it? And that's what's interesting. If you look at culture and media as a big steering force behind kind of political or social agendas, then what they tend to put out tends to be the mirror in which society then reflects back, unless it's intended to be satire. But I don't know if this is intended to be satire. I don't know if the National Council of Family Relations were having a right laugh with this one and thought, fuck it, let's try and make going to a boot sale sound fun. We will never know that. However, the idea that if we the further we go back, that all there is oppression for women and these dynamics of women being disempowered with their role within society, it's weird how the culture right then wasn't projecting it, whereas nowadays we're very good at projecting the inequalities in our culture and our media. You can't watch a modern TV program without it touching on these forms of inequality or injustice. But back then it's interesting how they were portraying this very simple way, the American dream, so to speak, of how to engage. But you see how, even if it was meant to be an oppressive time and it's completely different, look how far we've come now in the 21st century, the date was still led by her. There was still the nervousness around her. There was still this real innocence around the engagement of what a date is supposed to be. If you look at the society then, they were all happy to be doing something proactive for their community, whatever it may be. So it opened up options for social engagements to be organic. And I know on this channel I give a lot of stick to the nice guy kind of finishing last methodology that loads of men talk about in this kind of space, but the idea that kind of nice guys finish last, not because it's inherently bad, but maybe they're actually living in this romanticism a little bit like Mick is back in the day, where there's this innocence towards the way they engage, and they think that chivalry and being nice and being passive is a way in order to win the day over, to get Kay interested in the weenie mart, and that's no pun, get her invested in the weenie mart. I have to make sure she's enjoying it, I have to capitulate. Whereas if you saw his friend as Jeff wasn't like that, but there was this deep-rooted confidence that he had to project himself and to ask these questions. And I like how he was a real positive role model for this character in that little story, right? Everyone needs a Jeff in their life. It's very easy to look at that like very black pilling and think, look at the state of us now, the creation of kind of the pornography that has an influence in the way that men and women engage in themselves. Would Jeff and Mick be the same type of guys if they were tugging on their meat? Hey Jeff, would you like to come and play tennis? Oh, well I'd like to, Mick, but I'm watching pornography at the moment. It's really important to remember, as I said at the beginning of this video, this was a very short little time capsule between absolute travesty and the rebuilding after the wars and all the shit that was going on. And after that, the 60s, 70s, etc., things started to get a little bit wild. So if you looked at the way that men have had their subconscious and collective unconscious played with, so too have women. But this is kind of an interesting time capsule, quite humbling, quite emboldening, and also quite sad from that black pill perspective about where we've kind of gone in terms of finding and courting, or how we see dating and what it's like between intergender relationships. And it seems that the narrative is about getting men versus women, women versus men. All this kind of bollocks is not helpful. But if you look back at something all those time ago, 74 years ago, you see something quite wholesome. You don't see this idea that it's like, well, Kay, you should make me a fucking sandwich because you're a woman, okay? It was none of that. It's the same thing since day of old, of this kind of sacred feminine bringing complexity kind of to the masculine, and he's almost enamored with her, and in this lovely romantic kind of wholesome down to earth infomercial or tape is kind of communicating how to overcome that fear and remember that human beings bond over action and doing things. So it doesn't matter what you do. For some people, I must say that for some people have requirements and expectations, but for most people, to some regard, you can bond over the most meaningless or trivial of tasks. It doesn't have to be something grandiose, but you have to be present, you have to be confident, and you have to be willing to kind of take a chance, as his mate Jeff encouraged him to do so. And this wasn't necessarily about what to do on a date, because if you had to recreate it outside of the satire about Kay snatching the hammer off of Mick and saying, well, you know, I can put that up just as good as you as a man, or her saying, well, Mick, I can't make this weekend because I'm making content for my OnlyFans. Outside of those satire-based things we can observe, if you recreate that in the modern time, we've got more choice, more access to these things, but people are still isolated, miserable, and find it hard to be present in any social situation, not necessarily just kind of courting, dating, putting yourself out there, even just platonic wise. And at the beginning I started by saying it's a PSA, so we don't know if it's going to be about road safety, crossing the train tracks, but it turned out to have a happy ending, an emboldening ending. And the happy ending, outside of all things, is that Mick and Kay have shared values. She's saying, well, you know, I thought that most women want to go out and have a lot of money spent on them. And she's like, no, I quite like the mini mark too. They found mutual interests and mutual principles. Mick and Kay are at the same vibration and want the similar sort of thing. So, well, lucky them, they've got a whole list of activities they can be doing.
You took that from us.
They took that from us.